After the magical ball and the discovery of the glass slipper, Cinderella's life changed forever. The prince had found the kind and gentle girl he had danced with that night, and his heart knew no doubt she was the one. The kingdom buzzed with joy as word spread the prince had found his true love. A new dawn broke over the royal palace. Soft golden light filled Cinderella's new room, and birds sang by her window. She took a deep breath, still in awe of how life had changed. Once, she had swept the floors of her stepmother's house. Now, she stood among velvet curtains and marble halls, but her heart remained the same, humble, grateful, and full of kindness. The prince entered with a warm smile. He held out a single white rose. Simple, pure, and beautiful. "Good morning, my princess," he said softly. Cinderella smiled back. "Good morning, my prince." They stood together at the balcony, looking out over the kingdom below. The sun shimmered on rooftops, and distant laughter echoed through the streets. "Together," said the prince, "we will make this a kingdom where kindness rules." Cinderella nodded. "Yes, that is the only kind of magic that lasts forever." Preparations for their wedding began at once. The entire palace was alive with excitement. Servants carried flowers through grand corridors. Chefs baked cakes taller than a man, and tailors stitched silver threads into gowns. Outside, villagers hung ribbons and lanterns from every window. Children practiced little dances in the square, while musicians tuned their flutes and fiddles for the great celebration to come. Everywhere, there was laughter and song, a happiness that spread like sunlight after rain. But even amid the celebration, Cinderella took a quiet moment for herself. She walked through the palace gardens, where roses climbed golden arches and fountains sparkled in the sun. She bent to greet a small bird that hopped along the path. "Thank you," she whispered to the little creature. "Your songs kept me company when I had none." The bird chirped, and Cinderella smiled, remembering how magic had begun in the smallest acts of kindness. At last, the day of the royal wedding arrived. Bells rang joyfully across the land. People filled the streets, waving flags of gold and blue. From every corner of the kingdom, guests arrived. Nobles in bright carriages, farmers with baskets of flowers, children with shining eyes. Inside the grand hall, chandeliers glimmered like stars. The prince stood proudly at the altar, waiting. When the doors opened, everyone gasped. Cinderella entered, wearing a gown as soft as morning light. Her glass slippers sparkled with every step, casting tiny rainbows upon the floor. The fairy godmother, unseen but smiling, whispered blessings in the air. The prince took Cinderella's hand. "From this day on," he said, "I promise to stand beside you, in joy and in sorrow, in laughter and in silence." Cinderella looked into his eyes. "And I promise," she replied, "to fill our days with kindness, so that every heart in this kingdom may know peace." The crowd cheered as they exchanged rings. Trumpets sounded, and the king himself proclaimed, "Let love rule this land forevermore." Outside, the people rejoiced, dancing, singing, tossing petals into the air. That night, the castle was filled with music. Long tables overflowed with food and fruit, and cakes of every kind. Laughter rang through the halls as guests shared stories and raised their goblets high. The prince and Cinderella danced together once more, just as they had that first magical night. But now there was no clock to fear and no magic to fade. When the music softened, Cinderella looked toward the palace gates. Two familiar faces stood there, her stepmother and stepsisters. They lingered in the shadows, unsure whether they were welcome. Cinderella's eyes softened. She stepped forward and smiled. "Come in," she said gently. "You are part of this story too." The stepsisters bowed their heads in shame. "We are sorry," they whispered. Cinderella took their hands. "The past is gone," she said. "Let us begin anew." And in that moment, forgiveness became the truest magic of all. Later that evening, when the stars filled the sky, Cinderella walked to her balcony once more. Below her, lanterns floated through the air like tiny suns. The kingdom shimmered in celebration. The prince joined her, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. "Look," he said, "they are happy because of you." Cinderella smiled softly. "Because of us," she corrected. "Because love and kindness spread farther than any spell." The night was alive with joy. The fireworks lit the sky, painting it in colors of gold and pink. Children laughed, the people cheered, and from every tower, the sound of bells filled the air. And so, Cinderella's story did not end with a slipper or a ball, but with a promise that goodness would always shine brighter than envy, and love would always find its way home. From that day forward, the prince and Cinderella ruled with gentle hearts. They opened their palace to the poor, shared meals with travelers, and filled their halls with music and laughter. The people said, "This is a kingdom built on kindness." And when little children asked, "Is the story of Cinderella true?" the elders smiled and replied, "True enough, for kindness is the greatest magic there is." As the moon rose high above the castle, Cinderella closed her eyes and whispered a final prayer of thanks. To the fairy godmother, to her friends, and to every heart that had believed in her, her story was no longer just her own. It belonged to everyone who dreamed, who hoped, and who dared to be kind. And so, the story of Cinderella and her prince became the tale of a kingdom where love never ended, a place where every heart, no matter how small, could find its happily ever after. The end.